Hello, Dirt Beauties. It's Marcos, and this is our week 12 going to week 13 recap briefing video. And we've got a busy transition week as we are wrapping up our storybooks and turning those in. And we're starting our audiovisual books and having our first presentation at our next class. So let me just do this quick reminder from what we talked about in class so you guys are all aligned on what's due. And there's some important deadlines coming up that are a little unconventional, and that one being that our design completion reviews happened yesterday or on Thursday, and the which everything which looked great. All those who presented, almost everybody in class, was nearly finished or finished with excellent books. And the next step is to finalize any last details, complete things, get everything squared away. And I'll go over those details in a second, but the final files are due on sundown Saturday, this weekend. They need to be uploaded to the server before, during, or just shortly after the sun goes down. We want a happy moon. I know that was supposed to be a sun. And we want that happy moon because everything is uploaded. So make sure you get that done. But if you don't, then you got to reach out to me and we can magically buy some time, but not too many of you can do that. But I see already on Friday afternoon that there are like four already uploaded, which makes me so happy. I can get a head start on this. But the key is that I want to get all these books processed and finalized to the upload version of the final files, and for me to send them to San Francisco so they can be printed and they can be returned on time for our final reviews, which we can see down here is on May 7th on week 16th. Well, you'll be presenting all three projects, and we'll be doing that here in my office in Dumbo. You'll be coming back to Toda. We're going to have a bunch of guest review critique people and have a really dynamic final session where you'll share your three projects with 2 to 3 different people um, in uh, in this office, and there'll be other designers. There'll be a couple of kids, expert at this, who they've done it for many years. And Demi will be here, Ahana will be here, Mateo, and a couple of other people. So it'll be a good time, and you'll have a really rewarding last class day. But to get there, we need to complete our storybooks and then have 3 intensive weeks, if you don't count the final week, of audiovisual book development, from planning to design concept to design completion. We'll go over in the next steps here shortly, but just back to the storybooks. The final files are due on sundown Saturday. Make sure your images or type are not intersecting in the center gutter. We talked about that. Everyone's got that going. Make sure that you add bleeds around. Hopefully your illustrations all have bleeds around there. Make sure you're using the provided InDesign file template and that your text is in InDesign, not in Photoshop or Illustrator that becomes locked into your image when you make a JPEG of it. That's important in case we need to move it around or make a correction or an edit. Make sure the text is live in InDesign. And then make sure you provide your InDesign files and all your artwork with all the links attached by packaging it. And make sure you keep the template, which is a cover file and inside file. They're separate files. They're 2 files you'll be submitting. Okay, and packaging them both. So don't merge them together. They're different. They're meant to be separate. So once you get your files ready to go, you spell checked it, you read it, you made sure the bleeds were there. You have your bio pick in there. You put in your town and state or province or country you're from. You put a little blurb about what your book was about and what your concept and your design was. Then you're ready to package it, and everyone has done that. So you go to File and select Package, and it'll bring all the links together. You just got to make sure your links are all connected when you when you do that. Make sure your fonts are there. I don't want to have missing fonts or missing files or images that aren't big enough to bleed. So those are the things to look out for. So bring all that stuff together. Make sure you have 10 spreads, and make sure you have a title spread. And that should be clear to everybody. And then make sure that your cover and back are separate files. And then these other grayed out pages are the fixed elements. And that's going to include the cover and the back with the logo and the UPC code. And on the left for Amazon, so I keep both the center and left open. The inside cover is blank. This page is, don't touch it. Don't change colors. Don't add an image there. Just change your name down here, or I'll do it. Here's the bio page. Nothing on the left side here. On page 2, on page 3, put in your black and white image, crop it nicely, and put in where you're from and a little bit of explanation about your story and about your approach. And I can help you with that, or your friend AI can nicely do that for you if you ask it to. And then in the back, leave that page alone. Don't do anything to it. Okay, so final files, package everything. A punch list of instructions are here on Canvas. Again, sundown Saturday on sunset. As it becomes dark, your files should be uploading up to the Google Drive, and it's located here. Children's Storybook Part 6, Final Files. Make sure you get that there. And if you don't get that there and you need more time, I'm not an ogre. I'm not a slave driver. You can just let me know, and we'll make arrangements. Okay, so that's the key thing, the packaging of those files, because I don't want to have any late ones that cause shipping extra charges for rush shipping. Please don't get me to spend more money than I have to. Okay, so audio visual storybook is our next project, and we went over this in class, but basically we are doing an experience that is meant to go from the pages of a book, which of course is the ideal way to do it, but we also want to play in the realm of what is real in terms of what people have access to, and everyone, almost everyone, many people have more access to a digital device than they do to getting their hands in books. So we recognize that having an experience on a phone or an iPad or even a desktop for that matter is vital, and we want to reach out to our viewers, our readers, and families who might prefer that. And this was kind of inspired by this app here, where there were these beautiful images, and it was read aloud by a narrator. When you hit the play button here, it basically read aloud the story, and the illustrations you see here were basically still illustrations. There may have been slight little like movement of the images, and maybe the circles moved around or the glows glowed a little bit, but it was a lush kind of beautiful still uh, experience where the sound of the voice and the storytelling was the main component of the communication. Hearing the story was the first thing, seeing it there on the screen was the second thing, but it wasn't interactive. It wasn't about scrolling or clicking or swiping. It was about listening and watching, or listening and putting the phone down and just listening. So we have to take a back seat to the sound here, but also, of course, provide a good experience as possible visually. And it will be in the context of an app where they can choose different stories. That's all under development. So the first step is in this, I'm calling Audiovisual Storybook Part 1, Concept Plan. And the reason I'm calling it that is because for many of you, the design of this, the story of this will already be chosen, because you most likely or have the option to build on one of the books you've already created, mainly the storybook. And it needs to be, if it's not the storybook, if it's the baby board book, it needs to be a story that takes time to read, and there's a story, not just quick, fun, few words like many storybooks are. Some of you did storybook, baby board books that have more of a story in it. So those are options if you have that kind of storybook, or you can create a new one altogether. But here are those options. Use the text and art from your children's storybook. That's option 1. That's the most popular option that'll allow you to build on the work you've just been doing and adjust those assets for this assignment. Or you can select a new story if you want to be ambitious and create a new story, maybe something you thought about doing before that you didn't get to do, your second choice for your storybook, or something maybe you learned about as you were already in the middle of your storybook, like, oh, I should have done this story. Here's your chance to do another story. But it's about making sure you plan out your time so that you can do all the work that you just did in the storybook in this audiovisual book, where you design, you find the text, you alter the text, you create a storyboard for it, you create the illustrations. It's kind of much more work, but it's something you can choose to do and something many students chose to do in past classes. And the third, it's kind of like 2B, maybe not so much 3, is you can do the same thing, but you can create your own original story instead of finding an old story. You can come up with a story that you have in mind and make it your original story. So let's go through some examples of some of these. Let me just make sure that my sound is playing And I'm going to pause here just to make sure. All right, so let's take a look at this example of a audiovisual book. And this student utilized the assets from their book, A Handful of Clay. And as you see on the screen here, it has this pop-up menu that has the title and the author's name, the original author, as well as the designer and their narration credit, and a little overview. And this is just a thing you'll do later, so don't worry about that for now. But I'm going to play this just partially and zoom ahead and just make some points. So,
Dirt Reads presents A Handful of Clay, illustrated and narrated by Ivy Cornyawan. On the bank of a river, there was a handful of clay.
So as you can see with this, it basically is taking the illustrations and it's providing the sound with a little bit of zooming, a little bit of motion in a planned way, and then it changes images and follows the same idea of having a static image have a little bit of dynamicism. Now, this is the basic way of doing this. It doesn't have to be this basic. It can be more sophisticated. These leaves could be moving. The flowers, you can do many things with it. I just want to show you a really basic example of how this can be done. And here is an example of using motion where this used to be a horizontal layout and they reworked the layout so that it was a stacked layout so that it just scrolls up and shows the different emotions while the clay is being turned into a pot. Um, and a few of these illustrations had to be remade for this version of a vertical. The challenge you're going to have is that you have a horizontal book and you're going to have a vertical phone experience, and that's going to be the challenge for your whole life, probably, with the way things are. Okay, so that's an example of how one can work, just utilizing the assets you already have. This next example is that's similar, so let's skip to this next one.
We like to move.
This one shows more
Illustrated by
of an
Malavika
adaptation from a
Srinivasan.
baby board book
Narrated by Kirtana Srinivasan.
that uses the illustrations from the baby board book, but really begins to animate them more than what would be typically done, and utilizing skills beyond just zooming into a photo and really creating kind of a simple animation.
Step. Give each of your ears a gentle tug.
And you can see it's pretty simple with motion, with a little bit of graphics that showcase what the different body parts are doing. And then, of course, a personalized narration by the designer's mother, who was involved in this project, like some of your mothers are, which I really love.
A little kiss.
Yeah, so that's another version that's pretty basic. What's this next one?
The Forbidden Fruit.
This one's pretty cool because it uses AI for the narration, which we can listen to for a second.
Beautiful, bright, colorful garden called the Garden of Eden. The creator felt that the world would not be complete without anyone to appreciate all its magic. So, he made two people, Adam and Eve.
So with this idea, they created their storybook exactly with these illustrations and this kind of like flat paper cutout, kind of cool style. And then she decided that she was going to create a single, if it was a movie, like a single cut where the camera stays still and the whole story scrolls across at the same pace throughout the entire storytelling process, and that everything is connected within this frame, which is kind of a smart idea. And again, the sound uses AI and uses different voices.
By the serpent's words, the fruit looked so delicious that she could not resist taking a bite. So she
tree in the middle of the garden?
There's
Eve replied,
the serpent's voice.
No, we were told not to eat it.
Eve's voice,
but the
different.
serpent insisted
And again,
that
it was done with
special
AI,
fruit
so you
that would
can
make her
ask it
wise
to
and
change
knowledgeable.
voices.
They learned to work hard to provide for themselves, and they had children who would grow up to do great things. The biggest lesson that Adam and Eve learned is that it is important to take responsibility for your own actions.
All right, so that's it. That's forbidden fruit. And then this next example,
Mop and Pop,
is
and the
also
written and illustrated by
using several
Julia
different
Winkler,
voices for the different
narrated
characters. But these are actually, this is actually this designer's entire family. The brother, herself as the sister, and the mom and dad all doing the narration voices, which is amazing. It's a story that the mother and father told them as they were kids, so it's really, really personal. And basically, they have the illustrations from their book, but then they'll do things where they'll do the fading like this and the movement and the scrolling, but there will be little effects. I can find one where the
So
hands are
glad you're
moving
safe.
there, the
I don't want to
tears
fight
are
either. You're
moving
my
here a little
best friend
bit,
too,
coming out
and
of their
even though you're
eyes.
stinky and
So it
annoying,
could just
life
be
is just no fun
subtle
without
little
you.
things that you can add to your still images that aren't too complicated, like the hearts. Okay, and then this one.
Dirt's Read presents Time with Taki, illustrated and written by Jojo Jiang, narrated by Scarlett Long. Hey there, what do you think time is? Taki searched through their mind. Maybe time is a shadow, one that grows long in the morning and shrinks.
So as you
as
can
the
hear, this
sun
one is
climbs
narrated
up
by the
above the
designer's friend. And in this one, they really utilize animation pretty well from the exact images from their book, but they make them move around in a pretty nice way.
And the warm smells sneak into the air, ready to be tasted.
And these sound effects like the oven,
Taki remembered that day
the
in
rain
the
you
car,
can hear.
watching raindrops race each other down the window, one always just a little behind the other. But then Taki paused. If time can always be seen, what if sometimes it's hiding? That day in the warm smells sneak in. Time is when the dough turns.
Okay, so here comes the oven.
Or maybe time is when the dough turns golden and the warm smells sneak into. Time
So
is
yeah,
a
so
hug you
just
once received long ago.
a nicely done set of animations that are simple like their book. And I don't think require high level skills. I don't know, but maybe it does. But a lot of you I know can do lots of things. So I don't want you to feel limited to just the zooming in and out. And some motion like this would be great. So yeah, so that's basically some examples, but there are much more examples on the Google Drive that I'll show you where those are at. But for the assignment, basically, you need to create a deck like this. Same thing, cover, thank you page, front and back. Write out your plan. Like, what do you plan to do? I plan to use my storybook. I plan to use my baby board story. I plan to use an old story that I didn't use before. I plan to write my own story. And this is the handful of clay. And her plan was to use her storybook and then to alter it to work in this format and talk about how she's going to do that in her strategy statement. In her storyboard, she was able to easily use her illustrations and just rearrange some of them and then make a sketch for this one panel here for illustrations she didn't have that she wanted to add for this purpose of this format. So again, you can have one extra image, you can have a bunch of extra images to make sure that your story can translate well. She has the text here in the story plan, breaking it down to where the images will change, and that's basically the setup for this assignment. Another version is to simply take your layouts from your storyboard and take notes around them and kind of make a plan where you can explain in class next week how you're going to turn your storybook into an audiovisual experience on a vertical phone. Or if you're not wanting to use something you've already done, if you want to make a new project, again, I encourage that as long as you're able to meet the deadline and get the project done. But this person decided to do a new story. And because it's a new story, she had to not only talk about what she would do as an audiovisual book, but she had to sort of start from scratch and talk about the story, where it came from, what the story was about, show examples of what the story, how it was illustrated in the past, show her mood board of inspiration, of design inspiration from illustration style, the typography, and then show the text, and then explain her concept, and then a sketch of how she was going to do that. And because she doesn't have any assets, it's all sketch right now. Okay, so that's basically what you got to do is make a presentation that explains what your plan is going to be and shows the first steps of your storyboard and how you're going to set up your design for this audiovisual book experience. And there's Canvas. On Canvas, there's a link here that says look at past examples of AV books from past students. If you click here, it'll take you to the Google Drive, and it'll take you to class resources. See it down there? And it's in blue here. And that class resources will have 3 folders in it. And one of them is called Dirt Audiovisual Books Past Projects. If you click on there, there's a whole bunch more than you see on the screen of MP4s of working examples of the assignment from past students. So there's a lot there. So I would start right there. Go there and watch some more of those and get a sense of what you want to do, get inspired so you can make plans for your own. And then plan to present that in class this coming Thursday, the 16th, for our part 1 of our audiovisual book. All right, so back to work. Remember the rules. Do not fall in love right now. It's time to focus. Daniel, you looked a little starry-eyed, so I'm worried that you might be falling in love, so snap out of it. Anybody else who might have those stirring feelings inside, deny them. And make sure you stay focused on your work. Make sure you are planning well, you're utilizing your time well. They're down to like a month of class left, and it's a vital month where you need to make good decisions about what you're doing. Yes, it's your college. Yes, you're in New York City. Yes, you're young and beautiful. Have fun, have a good time, explore, do all those things, but do them in the context of getting your stuff done and getting them done excellently. So please remember, it's sundown on Saturday. Your storybooks must be done, and then pivot and transition to getting your audiovisual book first presentation concept plan ready to present on Thursday. All right, guys, back to work. Reach out if you need anything, and I'll see you guys on Thursday. Thank you.